Hi, I'm Meta Spencer, and today we're going to do something for me is really quite different. I got to go on an adventure that I've always wanted to take, but I have never been able to do, or never managed to do anyway. We get to go vicariously on a cross country march, a march on behalf of a cause. And our leader on this expedition is Nietzsche Dupuis, who is a woman in the north. Anything north of Steeles to me is northern Canada. So I don't know your part of the world, Nietzsche, at all. But I think you're around Sudbury or someplace. Where are
We're north of Thunder Bay.
you? That's even, I believe, that's even farther north.
hmm
Okay, it's good to meet you, Nietzsche. Nietzsche, we're gonna have to start at the beginning because we had a little phone conversation, and you told me a little bit about what you had done, enough to make me think that it would be very interesting to hear more. And so I want you to tell us about your expedition across country. You did a long march for the cause. Okay, now what's this all about? You had at least one long trip, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
Okay. In October 2019, I was invited to a focus group in Ottawa, Ontario. My cousin and I attended this focus group, and it was a focus group um, that nobody knew what it was about. So it was completely unknowingly, like not knowing a top and so on. But further, like during part of this focus group, we had found out that they were talking about the nuclear waste management organization, and they were talking about where they were going to store and bury the nuclear waste from the southern sphere of Ontario. So but anyways, we had found that out, and the reason why I
Now,
was so
let me
concerned.
interrupt because I'm curious. You went to a focus group that they didn't tell you in advance what you were going to talk about.
No, no.
They wanted you to come in without any preparation or prejudgment. Is that it?
Well, I went in there because I it was they were focused on gathering the information from Indigenous peoples, right? So me being Indigenous, from the land, I wanted to see what they were talking about and what it was concerning about.
Mhm.
So I had went, with some of my friends and my cousin, who's also from Wabigoon First Nations, and so we both had went in. And I'm from the Ojibwe Nation of Saugeen, which is located up in northwestern Ontario by Cement Lake. But I'm also a 60s scoop survivor. So I was never actually, like, raised on the land. So I wasn't actually raised with people. I was raised away from the community and from my people and from everybody. But when I turned 18, I had returned, and that's when I had met my family, my mom, my father, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, who have lived on the land all their lives, who have hunted and trapped and fished, and they know their culture and they know everything. And to me, it was such, an inspiration to reconnect with my family. But then when I had learned about the nuclear waste storage, I immediately thought and how it was going to affect them, personally. Um, and because the way the nuclear waste management, organize themselves, a lot of the reasons that we questioned their ways was because they were not communicating the factual information to the Indigenous communities around the nuclear waste storage proposed area. So that's when we started questioning, who they were and what their intentions were. And so a lot of the information has not reached the people, like specifically in my community. And the Ojibwe Nation of Saugeen and Mishkikogamag sit upriver from the location, the proposed site. And in every directions of Ignace, there's different communities that sit on those waterways. And a lot of the concerns is the
Sorry,
water.
they sit on waterways. That's the issue largely. Then you're concerned about the water.
Water, the safety, The information that they're giving out to the people, it's information that they want you to kind of like agree with, but they're not giving you the background information of what could happen. And that was my concern, is like, what would happen if this should, enter our waterways? And those were the questions that were brought up during our walk. So my cousin Darlene Meekan and Sheila Cron, they began a walk from Savant Lake Nuclear Waste Management Office in September 2020. And
They had already done this before this focus group, or this was the
this is after the focus. This is totally after the focus group. So during this, so sorry, I'm bouncing around because at this focus group, they had picked the location of Ignace, Ontario. There was a big star and a number one, at the Ignace location.
And sorry, that is the choice of the people who were trying to pick a place to dispose of or bury nuclear waste from reactors in southern Ontario.
Small modular reactors, and then they were talking about the DGR, which is a deep repository. What's a DGR again, Aaron?
Ground repository.
Deep geological ground repository.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they had intended to.
Sorry, I have to keep interrupting to make sure I get clear. Okay, now there are smaller modular reactors. They've already got. I think that's a future thing.
It's something that's being introduced to Canada, and it's a really big conversation. And I myself, I don't understand it. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, but because there's no information coming out of the Learn More, nuclear waste, like I'm trying to search the information for myself. I'm asking questions, and a lot of the information I am, learning about. It's information that I'm learning from different communities that have dealt with this in the past. So I'm kind of like, listening to the elders of different communities and to the people who are actually dealing with this and have dealt with this. So it's about communicating to different people, and that's the solution that I have for myself, because no information is coming out of the Nuclear Waste Management Organization in Ignace, Ontario. So it's like we have no choice.
They are deliberately withholding information, or they just don't know how to communicate, or what? Because there are certain things that there are groups, and you're probably in touch with them, that have been meeting a lot lately. They're not necessarily Indigenous communities, but other people concerned about nuclear waste and trying to block it. And I think that most of the waste they're talking about comes from various existing reactors, because Ontario has a lot of nuclear reactors. It's very heavily dependent on nuclear reactors. And I think Pickering and places like that are places where they're accumulating a lot of waste. And they are talking about putting it, want to dig one big hole up by Lake Huron, I think, isn't it? Anyway, I have to get clear in my own mind as you're talking. So if I interrupt you, I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's good. It's good. So yeah, this is the focus group. So this is where I had questioned, like, why am I hearing of this from a focus group in Ottawa, Ontario, when I should have been informed by, the chief and council from the northern communities, like specifically my chief and council as a member, right? But there was no information passed on for 10 years. And I think they've been up there since 2009, I believe, or 2000. They've been up there for a while. So they've been whining and dining, certain, individuals up in Ignace to have access to the lands.
Because they want to bury it on your land.
Well, not necessarily my land. I mean, it's treaty-free territory.
Territory. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. And a lot of the people from Treaty 3, like a lot of them are maybe some of them are in agreement with it, you know, due to the fact that it's going to be prosperous, it's going to create employment opportunities, training opportunities, and it will create so much, you know, like northern prosperity. But to us as, you know, indigenous peoples, you know, like we see, you know, the downfalls of it, of what could happen or what, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be here a million years from now. I'm not going to be here 200 years from now. I'm not even going to be here maybe 50 years from now. But the kids, the children, they're all going to be here. Like, and that's why, you know, it's really important for us to, like, you know, focus on the needs of the children and our youth, because like I said, we're not going to be here 50 years from now. And that's what, you know, brought us to deciding to do a walk against nuclear waste in Northern Ontario. And that was a dream and vision of my cousins, you know, Darlene Meekan and so many other women up in Northern Ontario. And it began in September, and I just joined the walk, and that's all I did. I joined and I supported them. Yeah. So my son, sorry.
Oh, he's arrived. Good. All right.
Yeah.
Come and introduce us. Hi.
There he is.
Hello. Hello. Okay, you're a little. It's going to take you a little while to warm up. You've been out in this cold car, right? Now, what is your name?
A-L-E-S.
A-L-G-S?
A-L-E-S.
A-L-E-S. Alice. Alice? Is that how you pronounce it?
Alice. No.
Okay.
A-L-E-S.
All right. It's great to meet you. Yeah. So you've been on a big walk, were you? You went with your mom?
Yes.
Okay. It's nice to meet you. So you can just sit here and tell us when something occurs to you about something that happened on the walk. Feel free to share it with and tell us all about it. My, you're a handsome guy. I guess people always tell you what a good looking fellow you are. Do they? They don't? Well, okay. I won't either then. Anyway, it's nice to meet you, Alice. I'm glad you're here. Terrific. Okay. Now, your mom was about to tell me a story about this long walk you went on. And it was days and days, was it?
Only 5 days.
5 days. And you walked all day long?
It took 28 days.
We started at 9 and we ended at 3 o'clock.
Yes. From 9 to 3, you kept walking every day. And then you would stop by the side of the road or what?
I mean, there was a car following behind us. We would jump in and then someone else would walk.
Okay. That makes sense. Good. All right. So let me see what your mom has to say about this. You can sit right there, and I'm glad to have you right by your mom.
Yeah. So yeah, he's sitting across the table.
Okay. So now you and you have relatives who started this thing, and you sort of joined it, right?
Yep. Yeah, my cousin Darlene Meekan was approached by some women of Ignace, Ontario, and I guess some people in Ignace, they tried to express their concerns against the nuclear waste, but because they were non-Indigenous, it was really hard for non-Indigenous people to express their concerns because I guess it wasn't of importance. I don't know what it was, but then the women, they had asked the women of the territory to help them, you know, give a voice to the people who are in opposition. And that's when my cousins, you know, accepted, and they accepted the responsibility and role to, like, you know, to walk against, you know, nuclear waste. And my cousins and family friends, you know, they organized themselves and they began a walk. And when they got to Cement Lake, I joined them. We traveled from Ottawa. We traveled up to Cement Lake, and we walked with Darlene to Sioux Lookout, Dryden, and then back to Ignace office.
I see.
So it was 470 kilometers.
Oh, what? So it wasn't 5 days the way Alice
No,
says.
actually, we actually thought it would take 5 days, but it took 28 days of speed
Okay.
walking.
Yeah. All right. So you went walking and you had a car that would take your stuff in it and sort of follow along behind you. Yeah.
Yep. For safety reasons, as walkers, we have vehicles that do follow us to detour traffic, so we had signs on our vehicles. We had, the hazard lights were on. So, just to give visibility to the truckers, because there's a lot of forestry up in Northern Ontario. So there's a truck coming in, around the bend. So we had to protect ourselves, but also it was moose season. Was it moose mating
Oh,
season? So we
really?
had to be aware of, all that loving happening in the forest. So it was pretty cool because it's like taking a walk in the forest is like it's a completely different world, right? Like it's a place where the animals live, the bears, the wolves, eagles, and it's a different place,
So
and
would you say that most of the walk was through forest land,
yeah.
not farmland or anything?
Nope, it was completely 100% boreal forest.
Mm.
There was no development, it was just pure forest everywhere. When we began our walk, the trees were green, and by the time we were done, everything started turning to yellow and orange. So we watched the transformation of the forest, and we were able to during the walk, because we're so used to driving, right? So everyone's driving 100 miles per hour. So when you have that moment to walk, you're able to see and hear the creeks, you're able to hear the water, you're able to hear the animals in the forest. So to know that that whole entire forest is full of life, you know, it's important, and my son was able to experience that. Yeah.
I have never. Did you see a moose at all?
We seen their tracks, and we know they were around.
Uh,
We seen wolves, we seen bears, we seen eagles, we seen foxes, we seen snakes. Like we seen a lot, you know what I mean? And we've seen a lot of insects, you know what I mean? And my son actually wanted to draw or make a coloring book to show all the animals that need water in the forest, right? So he was talking about, like how the baby wolves, need water to grow strong and to be a part of the forest. And then he's talking about all these different animals, and then we walked by, we drove by English River, and he actually said the fish talk English because they live in English River. I'm like, okay, but this is, and then he sees the life that the rivers carry, right? He sees how far the waterways go. He sees the spring water holes, he wonders how deep, into the land it goes. So, but he's also comprehending, like should anything happen with the nuclear waste, all that water will be contaminated, you know, and that's his concern. And that's why he was walking. He was walking because he was concerned about, like what would happen to the animals, to the trees, to the land, should something, happen. That
okay. All right. Well, now were you carrying signs and I mean you must not have met very many people along the
Oh
way.
yeah,
Oh,
lots of people, came out. Lots of people from different communities came out. They all came out. They heard about our walk because we had people from Environment North who were calling the media ahead of time to give the heads up that we were coming through. And we had a lot of support of people who were passing out information, right? So we had Sioux Lookout Bulletin who came out and spoke with us. We had people from CKDR as well. We did an interview with Darlene. So it was different, media outlets who were, giving us little details of what could happen and what nuclear waste's, intentions were with, up in, northwestern Ontario. but it was also to provide a little bit of information. And Dodi Legasic from Environment North, she was able to provide that information to journalists to provide, an outlook of what nuclear waste is and what can happen. But there's also different groups out there that do advocate and fight against nuclear waste storage. And I didn't know it was a global, concern. I thought it was just, like amongst Ontario, but I found out it was pretty big. It's beyond, like Canada. It's beyond us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things that we hope to do, Project Save the World, has attends to 6 different global threats, and one of them is radioactive contamination, which is why I wanted to have you here, because access to or exposure to radioactivity, of course, is so dangerous and can be when some kind of particular disaster could wipe out, 1 billion people if it's the plumes of the radioactivity go around the world and so on. So it is true that every country has a few people who are already concerned about and working against radioactive exposure. And yet, I don't think there's been any kind of effort to bring together, create a network so that these different groups can communicate with each other. Because it seems to me that if people were sharing information, as you have obviously seen things that other people would love to know more about, sharing that would be a way of empowering people everywhere to say this is a worldwide problem. Yeah. So thank you for doing this. It's just you're taking care of me too,
Hmm.
taking care of
Hmm.
us all if we get on top of this thing. I think the uranium should have been left in the ground in the first place where it was just fine for a few billion years. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay, tell me the things that now you expected to do what? What did you see along the way that um, I guess you had planned out that you were going to have meetings with people and discuss this and try to raise consciousness of local people about it, or maybe they already had plenty of consciousness. What did you discover as you met people along the way?
Um, I realized that a lot of the people share the same concerns, that a lot of them didn't know how to express it or where to express it because um, there's a lot of there's some division, amongst, the township people and like I said, some people are in support of it and some of them are not. So a lot of them don't want to put a sign in their window because they're afraid of being, shunned by their neighbor or
Really?
and so on. So there's a lot of that happening up north. But there's also a lot of, support, for each other. Like I said, there's a lot of different groups and a lot of different First Nations that have joined, you know, spaces, on Facebook. Like we have different sites on Facebook. There's Concerned Citizens Against Nuclear Waste in Ignace, which was, created by people from Saskatchewan who have, went through, the effects of uranium mining. So we have another site that we created during the walk, which was called No Nuclear Waste on Treaty Lands. So that's actively going on right now. So if you want to check that out, we try to keep stuff updated right now, but it's about sharing information and trying to get trying to boost your posts, I guess, trying to reach out to more different organizations. Like I found a group in Australia, like they have different groups down there as well. So and then we also teamed up with the people from South Bruce, so this is another township that's taken on nuclear waste. They're advocating against it because it's going to affect the lands and waterways as well, as much as it will affect up north. So the people of South Bruce and some people up in Northern Ontario are working together to create that unity to show like we're in solidarity with each other. And so it's a variety of solutions, like after since the walk, we've been networking with different communities. Like right now we have a virtual um, a virtual presentation that's going to be presented to the Dryden council in Ontario,
What
um,
territory?
Dryden, Ontario. So we're going to be
Ontario.
doing a presentation on February 22nd, Darlene Niekan and myself.
Mhm.
And we're going to be talking about like our walk and, the concerns that we do have. We're given 15 minutes each to speak. So I'm kind of hoping to squeeze it into like really, really, really just compact it. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that we're still continuing to do. So Darlene, she had written out her walk, like from like, how she felt about her walk and what it brought to her and everything. Like so we're still continuing, like I've taken a break myself, because after the walk, I decided to go back to Ottawa, and um, one of the biggest reasons why I'm such a strong advocate against this is because in our territories, we have blueberries, and are the blueberries are they grow in our territories, and they're virgin blueberries. You know what I mean? I mean, if you don't get the Ministry of Natural Resources, they spray them every year, but if we can stop them, you know what I mean? Like that's another, it's a medicine, it's a traditional medicine for our people. And my mother, she has Alzheimer's and she has breast cancer. So the medicines of the blueberries, like they carry an antioxidant that carries medicine. So it kind of like, helps with the healing. And one of the reasons like I'm such a adamant about, protecting our blueberries on our land is because, in order to have fresh, blueberries, we have to have healthy waters. So you can't build a nuclear waste storage area up the river from where our blueberries grow freely and naturally in our forests,
Mhm.
and a lot of our peoples, they harvest those blueberries, and who feeds off the blueberries, right? The natural animals of the forest, right? So you want to continue the healthy cycle of life up in the forest, because our people, eventually do feed on, the coexistence of the forest and our people, right? Since the beginning of time. And as an adoptee, being adopted off and taken off the land, for me, it's an honor to go back home and to see it still intact. You know what I mean? But right now, we have the forestry, the mining, the nuclear waste that are, coming into our territories very fast. But because of COVID, like we're unable to meet, we're unable to have gatherings, we're unable to speak about, what we want to do collectively. And a lot of our people don't have laptops, they don't have, internet access. So a lot of our elders, and our people, they don't have the means to communicate. So we're all spread out throughout the land, but all these industries are coming in fast, but there's nobody, saying, hey, we need to talk about this. So it's kind of like good for the industry, you know what I mean? But it's not good for the land people.
And that is so moving. Look, would you give me the URLs for any or links, any kind of internet um, links that I can put up at the end of this
Yep,
video, and
yep.
people can get in touch with you or check out what you're saying and maybe support you in some way because
Yeah.
what you're
We're
doing is
planning to do another walk for the next 4 years. Well, 3 years, because we want to do a walk for 4 years continuously to assert our rights and our inherent rights and birth rights to the land, and also to protect our waterways and also to keep tabs on the land, right? See if everything has been like, really disrupted, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, we're going to be caretaking the land for the next 4 years, but it's not just us, it's going to be more people from different territories that will come and join the walk, because there's so much talk about how the walk was healing, and how it brings, like awareness to, like we live in an industrial world, right? Like, like when I'm in Ottawa, I'm surrounded by my flat screen, I'm surrounded by all this movement. But when you transform all that world, a concrete world, into a forest world, it just changes your world views of everything, and how could you not protect it, right? You know, and we had people like, from different communities that supported us, like we had people from Lac Seul, people from Wapagoon, we had people from Eagle Lake, we had people from Mishkikogamai who were driving by waving at us. We had the people from our community, the Ojibwe Nation and Saugeen elders. We had petitions circulating, so everybody was signing our petition. People were coming up to us and they were walking with us and they were signing petitions, and petitions were brought back to their communities. We have an online petition as well. So we're still continuously, trying to bring awareness to what's happening.
Well, look, how much effect do you think you've had? Presumably, the people making the decisions are not along the walk with you. How, how much did you get through to them by doing this walk? Did it make much difference, do you think? Well, yes, you say you met all these people and mobilized all these people who now are more conscious of the problem, right? But how about the folks who are in charge of making the decisions?
I think some of the people, like I want to say their spirits are awakening up. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of staff that were present in the beginning. They're no longer there anymore. I don't know what situations happen, whatever, but a lot of people are transitioning, employment. So right now, Ignace is having, they're promoting, jobs in nuclear waste management organization. I've been seeing them on online. So I think they're really trying to promote jobs up at Ignace, but they also realize, there's indigenous communities that needs to be dealt with and spoken with, and there's a treaty relationship that has to be, honored and acknowledged. And then there's not just that, you have to think about the elders, right? The ones that have, lived on the land since the beginning of time and from generation to generation. And then you have to think of the youth, you have to think of everybody as part of the circle of life. And in this cycle of life, what we want to do is that we want to have a virtual Northern Empowerment Sharing Circle, which will include the elders of Treaty 3 so that we can receive guidance from the elders of Treaty 3. And that's how the grassroots people will follow through. Because with the guidance of the elders, with permission of the elders, we can follow to the next step. And one of our next steps is to create a place for people up in Northern Ontario to contact and communicate with each other, to give them a hub, a hub to speak at, a speaking forum, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's what we're creating next. There's postcards that are being made right now. There's a certain site, it's called nuclearwaste.ca. That's one of the sites. And on that site, there's so many different links that you can connect on and click on, and it will bring you more information than I can give you right now. But, nuclearwaste.ca, it's an excellent link. There's Northwatch, there's Environment North, and there's different, kind of outlets. So, I mean, if you click these different sites or if you Google them, it will give you more contacts, better contacts of what I can provide. But also we're working with elders from different communities who are dealing with this. So we're continuously having Zoom meetings. We have a grassroots Treaty 3, peoples that are working together. So it's pretty interesting. It's like it's created its own life.
Mhm.
And like you said, nuclear waste, I don't think they're in support of the unity and solidarity that's happening right now, but I appreciate and I thank them for bringing us together. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because without them, our people would still be, but because of them, the concerns and the shared concerns and issues, it's bringing people together, different coalitions, different groups, different peoples, different everything, and we're all being brought together to share the same concern, which is taking care of our people, taking care of ourselves, taking care of the environment, taking care and making sure that these policymakers and these people that are coming into our territory are held accountable, and that there's transparency in the work that they're doing and they're presenting to the Indigenous communities.
And somebody has brought you and me together. And that's in itself is a very special thing for me because it's been a real treat to meet you. You're an impressive woman. And what you're doing is just inspiring. So thank you for doing it. And good luck with it. Stay in touch. All right.
Yeah. I'd
Thank
just like
you
to
so
say
much.
that I'm just one of many people up in Northern Ontario. I'm just one of many individuals who has brought lifelines to the people of Northwestern Ontario, and that there's so many other women, so many other men, elders working so hard behind lines, and that, you know, I'm so thankful to be surrounded by them and
Well, I
to
haven't
meet
had
others.
that much contact. So now it's a treat for me to have a little bit of contact through you. So thank you very much. Good
Thank you.
wishes. Okay, carry on. Bye.
Bye.